Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast. This is Bruce Hutchin, host and executive producer. Each week, you will hear tips, techniques, strategies, and personal stories from some of the best and funniest whitetail hunters in North America. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you do, tell a friend on social media. If not, tell me and I'll make it better. Thanks for listening, folks. We welcome Adam Lewis to the show. Now, Adam is the founder, owner of a company that does sound management. What is sound management? Well, that's what Sound Barrier is all about. Adam's going to share with us today just why Sound Barrier works because it eliminates sound, those little sounds that buck, you could be a quarter mile away, and guess what? He'll hear when your bow hits your tree stand ladder. He'll hear when your backpack buckle hits the stand. Yes, he will. So he wants to help you eliminate all unnecessary sounds. Ergo, Sound Management by Sound Barrier and Adam Lewis. Hey, folks, Bruce Hutchin, host and executive producer of Whitetail Rendezvous. And I'm here with Adam Lewis, and Adam is the founder of Sound Barrier. And he's also a pretty good writer along the way. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Bruce. Good to be here.
Yeah, Adam was on the show, I don't know, 18 months ago, and he talked about something about sound barrier. And we're going to deep dive into that because that's one of the few places that people maybe aren't managing as well as their scent control or approach to their stand. So, Adam, let's start right off and talk to us about sound barrier.
Sure. Yeah, Sound Bear is just a company I started based around the idea and the need, really, for hunters in the area of what I call sound concealment, and just how we can better get past the whitetail sense of hearing. And so, kind of what I want to talk about today is this idea of sound management. And hunters hear a lot, there's a lot of articles out there and blogs and podcasts and you name it that, talk about land management and food plots, things like that, which is great stuff. There's a lot out there about scent impact. And so there's a lot of focus on those things, but really a major component that isn't focused on that's super important is what I call sound management. And that is sounds we make, in our hunting areas, and just how deadly they can be, or how they can make or break our hunts, really. And so, the idea that sound management is as important as those other ones for hunters to be successful, and especially on a consistent basis, and see more deer and bigger deer on a consistent basis. The idea of go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, now, how does that really work for the hunters?
Yeah, so I guess if I could break it down into just the practice of it in about three different ways. First is understanding that it is a problem. The idea that, and I did some quite a bit of research on hunter noises, how far they travel, things like walking in leaves, breaking branches, clanging metal, plastic equipment, which we have a lot of, and just what I found from that in a nutshell is that those sounds travel a long ways and that whitetail are attuned to hearing them very well. So it's very important we don't make those. And really, one of those can kill. It can kill a hunt, it can kill a hunting spot, cause deer to completely change their behaviors. And even before you hunt a spot, it can be ruined. So these sounds and sound management is super important. And first of all, recently wrote an article about this idea. And first, it's a habit. Just getting in the habit of thinking about it. We're really used to, and we're pounded, with the camouflage stuff that'd be getting past the deer's eyes. We're pounded with the scent concealment stuff, and both those are important. But really, getting in the habit of getting in our minds the sound management part, the sound concealment part and really managing uh, those noises that we make or eliminating them. And it really is a habit. It's something that the hunters, need to do and start thinking about different ways that they can eliminate noises. It could be with their approach to stands. It could be with hang stands. It could be, obviously while they're hunting and all the equipment that's involved with that. But just getting into the habit of that. Secondly, I'd say it's a proactivity. And when I say it's a proactivity, that's kind of like there's kind of two meanings there. A while back, I was talking to a guy, an outfitter named Jim Hole Jr., and he's up in Canada, Alberta, classic bow hunts, Alberta, Canada. He's been guiding up there for 30 years, chases really big bucks up there. He's had a lot of success, and he tries to do that for his clients. And one of the things he told me about his, 3 decades of success, he started seeing these patterns. And to quote him, he found that if a bow hunter wishes to get close to mature deer on a regular basis, not just every now and then or accidentally, uh, but on a regular basis, he must concentrate his efforts on being silent and having gear that is silent, not pretty silent. Mature deer have learned not to have tolerance for such a thing. And so that's a quote from him. And that's something that you talk about proactivity. That's something that the pros do and the pros know. They are meticulous when it comes to sounds they make when in the hunting area or not making them. And this has to do with the gear, their approach, their setup, all those things. Um, it's something the pros do to have consistent success. So, as a normal everyday hunter, which I would consider myself to be, uh, we need to start doing the same things if we want to have consistent success, seeing deer more often, and not, blowing deer out of our hunting spots. A lot of times, in the Midwest, where they're probably the most deer hunters, but deer hunters in general probably don't have unlimited spots to go. And I know myself, my dad owns 40 acres, 25 of his woods. And in a situation like that, where you have a few acres, even 100 acres, if you blow deer out of there with a smell or a sound, in this case, they're changing behaviors, and pretty soon they're not on that property anymore. And that that really hurts. That really hurts your hunting. It could have hurt a whole season. And so, again, the proactivity of it, pros know, and we need, as hunters, need to start really thinking about things that way and really paying attention to the details of every little sound matters and could make or break this hunt, but not only this hunt, but this season. So that's a huge part of it, just being very meticulous with controlling our sounds. And then the other idea of proactivity is meaning of the word being proactive. It's something that a lot of hunters, I don't think, and I didn't used to do this. We don't think about it ahead of time. We just kind of go out hunting, and it's like, okay, I'll try to be quiet. And to really be meticulous about it, like a lot of the pros do, you have to really start planning ahead of time and be proactive with it. So that means months ahead of time, you are thinking of ways that you're going to be completely silent or eliminate any chance of making those, hunt ruining noises and mistakes. Uh, that means preparing your gear. That means setting stands months ahead of time. That means figuring out the best entry and exit routes. That means clearing them out. That means getting them prepared way before season. And, you know, when this airs, it'll probably be early fall. I guess it's never too late, but, typically you want to do that in the winter or early summer if you can, to have those spots ready. So when you are going in, your gear, your entry exit routes, everything is set up in such a way that it's going to be very hard for you to make any of those noises.
What about your gear? What about your bow when if you bring it in a hang on, you get some steps? I mean, typically a lot of guys just run and gun, so they're bringing their stuff with them every single hunt. How's that work?
Yeah, well, what you really need to do is, like I said, prep that stuff out ahead of time and really analyze your gear and say, first of all, do I need all this stuff? Um, our gear nowadays, a lot of it's great, but a lot of it's metal and plastic. And from our testing, those things obviously are the least natural in a whitetails environment. And they're going to notice those the most. And also, those sounds tend to carry the furthest. So that has a lot of potential to really mess up a hunt. So what a hunter needs to do is really look at their gear, say, do I need this stuff? And of the stuff that they feel is essential that they're gonna take with them, maybe it's a run and gun setup or whatever, they need to take action to silence all that gear. And I used to use uh, anything I could to silence my stuff, and I used to use um, hockey tape, and that kind of works okay. I would just like totally cover all my stand, my climbing sticks, my camera arm, my bow arm, all this stuff. So it would at least kind of deaden if I hit metal to metal, which always happens. Uh, I cannot remember a time when I'm out hunting, as careful as I want to be, I'm always going to clang something a time or two. Um, so I would just cover it with all this hockey tape, and it kind of worked, but it wasn't that great. So what I do now is one of the products that we developed is called Buck Bumper, and that is specifically designed to soundproof your equipment. And so I take Buck Bumper and I completely wrap all my gear with it. My climbing sticks is wrapped, so there's really no metal exposed that can make noise. My tree stand, there's always these, contact points that are metal on metal. They're always clanging or have potential to. I hit those contact points so it can't make noise. So I just cover everything and create, and kind of hence our name, sound barrier. I create a barrier to the sound, to the noise. Camera arms, my buckles, cover those. Um, bow arm or hooks or anything that you are using up in the stand. You're gonna want to cover those things. You're gonna want to eliminate again the chance of making those mistakes. Because again, one little mistake can totally ruin a hunt.
You were telling me last time we talked about the sound levels that deer hear, and I'd like to just share that with the people again because I thought it was very interesting. Just how much or just how little sound deer can hear. If I said that right.
Yeah, well, they hear well. They hear differently than humans, quite differently than humans, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. Um, the one way they hear this similar to humans is the loudness. So something's loud to us is loud to them. Soft to us is soft to them. But they have advantages in three ways, which I'll just cover real quick. First is the huge outer ear, right? And that's what funnels the sound to their ear and also helps them locate the source of the sound real quick. So their ears, they can rotate them, they can hone in on any noise, and then that's where the eyes come in and they can just scrutinize the noise and they're out of there, right? Because once once they do that, they're on to you. So they can obviously hear better and pinpoint sound way better than humans can. And I think they do pick up sounds much better due to that. And just the example I'll give is, when we've all been there when we're out hunting and we're watching a deer, maybe in a field or something, and all of a sudden the deer start looking in a certain direction, and we can't hear anything, we don't know, but we probably guess there's something coming, and then a few minutes later something pops out, and they're hearing that way before we are. So that's one way, their outer ear picking up sounds. They also hear better in a different frequency range. And the funny thing is that's exactly where a lot of these noises that, you know, we make in the woods, whether it be we break a branch or crunching leaves or some of this metal and plastic noise, where that's loudest is where they hear best. So they're really attuned to picking up that noise very well. And the third way they hear better than humans is they're ultrasonic. Well, so what that means is they can hear higher frequencies than we can hear. They can hear over twice as high frequencies or pitches. And so we make a noise, it's making frequencies we can hear, it's making frequencies we can't hear, and deer can hear all of them. And those higher frequencies also really hurt us because they help deer really pinpoint our location. They use that for the location aspect. So we're really at a disadvantage in the woods in a lot of ways. And that, I guess, just shows one other way with the whole hearing thing that, yeah, they really have a big advantage on us.
So you take all that, and how do we ever kill a deer? Because you know, just a little clang from your day pack, your arm of your arrow or your bow hits. I mean, they hear a lot of stuff. To
Right.
us, it's just oh, that wasn't too bad. But the deer that are within 200 yards of us already know we're there. So how do we combat that?
Well, it's either, a lot of our luck and success sometimes is very sporadic. And it's, as a hunter for over 25 years now, I can look back and kind of see that sometimes, you don't know why some nights are good and some aren't. With some nights you see deer and some nights you don't. But the more I learn as a hunter and, learn from mistakes, mostly I see that, wow, it really has to do a lot of times. Now, there are other factors like weather and um, times of year, but a lot of times it has to do with what I've done and how I've screwed up probably hunts. And then, but when I've really been able to pay attention to detail, how that stacks the odds in my favor. So sometimes it's luck. Sometimes we get in there nice and easy, or it's rainy or windy or something like that, like a cover sound that helps us. We play the wind right and all these things, that have to come together um, for us to be successful, or at least, see deer movement. But it really is paying attention to all those details from, you know, your scent to, your approach and, not being heard or seen, but definitely the sound issues. So really taking it up a notch, almost being anal about, all these details of not making those noises or eliminating those chances. And again, that's why we came out with the stuff here at Sound Barrier, the buck bumper, to really help with that, because I've had many times where I've clanged or clunked something and it's ruined a hunt, and it can ruin a hunting area. And with all the effort, and preparation you put into the hunting season, it really stinks to know um, that one little thing like that can screw it all up. And so that's what we're here to try to help and eliminate those chances.
So give us a situation where somebody has given you a testimonial saying, "Hey, um, Buck Bumper did this, and so I was able to harvest a nice buck." Do you have any of those?
Um, I'll give you an example of mine from last year, if that's okay, where I hunt a lot on public land. And up here in Michigan, public land is super high pressure, a lot of hunters. The deer are constantly smelling, seeing, and hearing hunters, and they're constantly moving and constantly changing. And they're super acute to that. One example is that not long in the season, the deer are trained to look up in trees. So Just be walking through the woods and looking up in trees because they've run into so many hunters. They're so educated. So last year, I knew a good spot. It was back in bedding area, and that's kind of one of the spots you have to really push into on public land. You can't hunt the fringes so much. You got to really push it and get into the bedding area. So that's a time when you have to be super critical and super cautious with all of your scent and your sound. So what I did was I got in there. Me and my dad went in, and one day we hung the stand. We were super quiet about it. We had a good wind. We uh, made a path into the stand, so we get in there through all this thick brush and goldenrod that was there. Set it up, got out, didn't go back, didn't do anything. We were in there as smallest amount of time as we possibly could to decrease our noise impact. I went back in there, second day of season, October 2nd. First night, saw a bunch of deer, shot a doe, and saw where she flopped. And so when I went and got her, I just got her and drug her out of there. Made very little impact getting in and out. Um, and went back 6 days later, almost a week later, and shot a real nice 8 point buck. And that was because we were the only people hunting in there. We had really taken an effort to soundproof all our equipment, to soundproof our entry and exit routes. So it was just quick in and out with no noise. And this buck, and the kind of a side big discussion would be, deer senses and what's most important to deer. But uh, scent is obviously important, but this buck walked downwind of me the entire way it approached. It crossed where I walked in one time, and I still, it still came. I still shot it, and I think that's a testament to you know taking good precautions with scent, but also this idea that buck had no clue I was there. He hadn't heard us at all. He was bedding within a couple hundred yards of there, um, and so taking all these precautions, especially the sound precautions with our gear, with our approach and our exit, um, our impact was very low, and it gave me a chance at two deer in the same spot on public land. About 5 days later, I went back in there, and another hunter came in on me while I was hunting. And as he came in, I saw him bump. He was making a little noise, not a whole lot, but a little noise walking through some brush. And I saw an 8 point buck jump up and just run out of there. And that's the last time I saw any deer back there last year, because of that intrusion. So that's kind of I guess, success story, but also an example of just making a little noise, puts a little pressure on the deer, and they're going to change their behavior. So yeah, it's super important that you're very detail oriented with that, meticulous with that, and you can see the results.
You've taken your ideas and you've written some in North American Whitetail, Midwest Outdoors Magazine, and Woods and Water News. So, what type of things are you writing articles on, and what's been the response?
Response has been good. Woods and Water is a Michigan publication, which is the biggest in Michigan. I think they have 100,000 readership every month, and they have a huge show every year, which I spoke at last year, and I'm going to speak again at this year, which is September 8th through 10th. And I talk about this stuff that we're talking about right now. I get into more details of things a hunter can do as I have more time. But it's, yeah, the idea is a sound management, and nobody else out there is really writing about it or hasn't done the research on deer hearing, and have that expertise, I guess, so to say, on it. And so it's been really good feedback. And for a lot of hunters, it's something they really haven't heard before or hasn't been emphasized. So yeah, it's been really good, and it's been pretty cool to just be part of that and get information out there that can help guys in new ways. I feel.
That's great. Now, when you do a seminar, are you talking about similar things we're talking here, or do you break it down even tighter?
Yeah, I go into more detail, about the different ways deer hear. I go into more detail about the testing that I actually did at the University of Toledo with different hunter sounds, what the results of those tests were, which just in a nutshell was uh, striking just how far some sounds travel, some over half a mile that we make in the woods. So I go into detail about that and how deer hear, and then I give 7 practical things that hunters can do. I call them rules of sound concealment. 7 practical things they can do to really apply this to their hunting and see results. And um, we've kind of talked about some before on your podcast. If listeners go back and find those, they can hear maybe a couple of those. But they can also find them if they sign up on our website for a newsletter. I give a handout. They'll get a free handout that talks about the 7 rules that can really help them. So if listeners go to soundbarrierhunting.com and under contact, uh, Hunter's Guide, or the actual is soundbarrierhunting.com /hunter -s -guide. But if they download that Hunter's Guide, sign up for that. That's a free thing we give out that kind of goes into more detail about specifics that they can do.
Thanks for that. And, you know, somebody new to the sport, they're just starting off. What advice you get to them? Because everything's new, and there's a lot of chatter out there. You can go to YouTube, you can go to chat rooms, social media. Everybody's got an opinion. So if a young guy, a gal wants to, start off on the right foot, what would you suggest to them?
I would suggest, just to learn as much as possible. Uh, Also consider the source and know there's a lot of opinions out there. And I would really focus on the science, not people's just opinions, but the science behind it, because that's going to be where the facts lie. And there's, some stuff out there that maybe isn't true or just kind of is stuff hunters have done for a long time, but it might not be the best approach to things. So find a good blog, find a good podcast that really focuses on the science. Again, soundbarrierhunting.com. I come out with a blog every week that kind of delves into this stuff, and you can find some good stuff there, especially with the sound concealment part. But I would, yeah, dig into the science. Try not to be overwhelmed with things. Just pick a couple of things a year that you can focus on um, improving, and know that it's going to be a long haul. Even with sound concealment, it's a process for me, and it's a process for everybody. And but every year I learn more, I get better at it, and is the habit takes a while to really implement in your life and your hunting. So I would say to the new hunter, don't expect to be perfect the first year, and it's going to be a process. But pick a couple of things a year you can do to really work on and set some goals, and look at them, and then set some couple new ones the next year.
Thanks for that. And when I think of sound barrier, and I think of buck bumper. What does that run? What does it cost to do a bow or tree stand or your climbing sticks?
Right. So right now we've got some deals. First of all, this year we changed some of our structure to really help hunters out, and we have free shipping. We have a 30-day satisfaction guarantee, meaning if it doesn't soundproof your stuff like we claim, you can send it back and get your money back. That's how much we stand behind it. One roll, we have, for example, we have a package. It's called Sticks and Stand Combo for $45, and that will soundproof 3 to 4 climbing sticks, completely wrap them, with the buck bumper, and then that'll do 2 or 3 stands hitting the contact points and soundproofing your sticks and stand. We have a value pack, where they get 6 rolls. We have a lot of different options. We have a combo pack that's one of each. But basically, one roll of the buck bumper, which is the thin one you can wrap around things, that'll cover a little over one lone wolf tree stand, or excuse me, uh, stick. If guys kind of know the size of one of those, and then the buck bumper thick, that'll go a long ways. A couple of those will do, let's say, a blind if you want to do the window ledges to soundproof those. Um, or one roll could do 2 or 3 tree stands if you're just hitting contact points on there. So if guys have questions, though, they can go on our website, and if you click on one of them, what you'll see it gives you some information like a buyer's guide as to how much it'll cover. So you can see one of the things says, how much do I need? It tells you how much is in the roll. It gives you square inches. And so you can actually measure what you're thinking of putting it on, and calculate how many rolls you need.
What about freezing weather? Midwest, it gets 30 below, and it snows or rains. I'll guarantee it during the deer season. So, how's that impact your product?
It shouldn't impact it. I'd say put it on in home or garage. You want to clean off your equipment first so there's not any residue or dirt or dust on there, so it gets a good adhesion. And it is permanent adhesive, so it's going to stick. And once you do that in a fairly warm environment and it's on there, we don't have any issues with it coming off. I've had my stuff on a couple seasons. This is, I think, season 2 of my climate sticks in my stand, and rain, snow, cold, it stays on once it's there, so holds up pretty good.
Okay, the important thing, folks, do it in your garage where it's 50 degrees or just above freezing, right?
Yeah, somewhere when it's super cold, adhesive doesn't work as good as far as when you're applying it. But once it's on there, the adhesive has grabbed it, it's on there. So yeah, just put it on in your home, in your garage, and you should be good.
We have about 5 minutes. You want to give any shout outs or to anybody, or you get some last minute, hey, you should really consider this.
Yeah, I would say thanks to my team, guys, and also my parents who've been real supportive in this process. Got an article coming out in North American Whitetail in November. It's going to be a cool one, which isn't about sound concealment. Actually, it's more of a story of a buck I shot in Ohio last year. It's a really cool story, and it looks at the hunt from 2 angles. There's another hunter that I actually met after I shot this deer named Tom, and he actually Tom Petrie. He actually has a show on the Outdoor Channel, or excuse me, the Sportsman's Channel. And anyway, we met after I shot this deer because he'd been chasing it for 2 years, and it's a cool story because I write it from both of our angles. So there's his story and my story in there, and that's cool things coming out in November, North American Whitetail. And then I'll just say, yeah, check us out at soundbearhunting.com. We can really help you with, again, the idea of sound concealment and silencing your gear. Check us out there. We've got a lot of information with our blog, but also the product buck bumper to really silence your stuff. And again, it's free shipping, satisfaction guarantee. So go ahead and check that out.
Hey, on behalf of thousands of listeners across North America, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Well, thanks for having me, Bruce. That was a good time and pleasure. And yeah, thanks again.
I'm excited to have Bradley Biltman on the show, and he and his buddies started red oak hunting. What is red oak hunting? Well, down in Arkansas, they hunt the oak trees, but more important than that, they love showing the hunt just as it is real people in real places. And yeah, they hunt does, and they'll take does every year to feed the family. And they started off simply because they wanted to catalog all their hunts, all their fun, their misses, and some of their missteps. All in all, he talks about private land hunting and public land hunting. It's going to be a great show. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.